Welcome to Voices from the Bench, a dental laboratory podcast. Send us an email at info@voicesfromthebench.com or look for us on Facebook at Voices from the Bench. Greetings and welcome to episode 114 of Voices from the Bench. My name is Elvis.
My name is Barbara. Hi, everybody. How's it going?
What's happening, Barb? How are you?
Very, very, very busy week. We got a lot of work in. I'm super busy. Diagnostics are coming in. Aesthetic cases are coming in. It's been pleasantly busy. I don't think I moved from my bench, so.
Nice. You know, we've been busy here too, but the nice thing is we've had some posts on our Facebook page asking if other people have been busy, and everyone's pretty much saying they're slammed.
Yep.
So this is good. This is really good. There is a lot of fear of work not coming back as quick.
Yep.
I don't think we're going to see February numbers right away, but I'm pleasantly surprised and happy with the amount of work coming in.
Hello. I believe your partner might have said that was going to happen, but I'm definitely not going to take credit for being optimistic, Co.
And I'm definitely not going to let you say I told you so. So there you go.
I won't. I'm not that girl.
But hey, it's June. We made it through May, so that's pretty exciting.
Yep.
And you know what June is, right?
Yes, I do. CDT and Dental Technician Month, right?
Heck yeah. I mean, we all know that every month should be Dental Technician Appreciation Month, but June is the time to give the shout out.
Right on.
So make sure you hang around. Later in this episode, some people have sent in some really nice thanks to our industry audio recordings, and we'll play them at the end. So make sure you stick around for that. And the nice thing is June has 5 Mondays in it. So you still have 4 more episodes to send us your recordings at info@voicesfromthebench.com to give out that special thanks to that person or that group of people. We got a few vendors that send some in, some really nice stuff.
All right. Well done, partner.
But this week, voice crack, we have another great collection of conversations that Barb and I got while we were at the Argon booth at LMT Lab Day Chicago 2020. Now, the first one is this dynamic duo of dental technician and dentist. Tommy Rodgers from Iverson Dental Lab is an expert at full arch hybrid cases. And even though he's in California, he's partnered up with the Dr. Mike Clark out of Washington State. And they talk about working that long distance and their experiences together and with other labs and dentists.
Nice.
And then we chat with Bob, who came to Lab Day all the way from Romania.
Didn't mean to interrupt you. Super psyched.
No, it is super exciting. I'm going to try to say his name. I mess it up while we're talking to him.
Everybody's name up.
And yeah, but this guy, come on now. It's Ionut Pitu.
Nice.
I don't know if I got it or not.
Well done.
But he sits down to talk about dental laboratory technology from his country and why he traveled all the way to Chicago to go to LMT Lab Day. And then we sit down with Joshua Fitzgerald, who is a one-person lab out of North Carolina. He talks to us about growing his lab and advertising on social media. Great stuff from the Argon booth at LMT Lab Day Chicago. So join us as we chat with Tommy, Dr. Clark, Bob, and Josh.
What about Ionut?
Well, he's Bob.
Oh.
We wanted to be called Bob.
Oh, okay.
Barb, I got a call from a doctor who's looking for a new lab.
What? That's awesome. Did they start to send you work yet?
Yeah, but unfortunately her impressions are terrible. Missed margins, distortions all over. I don't know what to do.
Well, she's probably looking for a new lab because the last lab stopped taking her impressions. You know, bad dentists, they go from lab to lab to lab.
Yeah, that's probably what she's doing. But you know, I just got this account. I don't want to lose it. When I talked to her, I asked what impression material she was using, and it was some brand I've never heard of.
Yeah, there's a lot of crappy impressions out there. I don't understand why offices use cheaper materials to save money up front, but in the end, it ends up costing them twice as much, and with all the remakes for us and for them that they end up doing. And, we got to eat the remake costs.
Yeah, that's so true. I really wish I could find an impression company I could rely on for help, and the doctors can get the help they need for us to get the records we need.
So there you have it. Check out Kettenbach. This German-manufactured impression material is taking the U.S. by storm. Not only do they use top-notch patented technology, but they have a dedicated customer service team that will work with your accounts, which is amazing.
Interesting. So do I just call the doctor and tell her to switch? What if she doesn't want to?
Well, you know how doctors are. Most of them are pretty open and say, hey, if I can do better, please let me know. So if I was you, I would tell her to call Kettenbach Direct, give her the number of 877-532-2123. They've actually got a $99 starter kit. They will put her in touch with a local rep, and they also have a lot of materials that labs use every day, like the Panacell Lab Putty Hard and Lab Putty Soft. They've got soft reline, they've got bite registration material, and when a lab orders, you guys listen up, 25% off your first order. All you have to do is mention the code DentalLabPodcast25. Plus, they sell direct, so there are even more savings.
Whoa, wait a minute. I've heard about that lab putty. We use it here in our lab. I didn't even realize it was made by Kettenbach. That is amazing lab putty that our technicians love. I'm going to check out kettenbach-dental.us right now and then call my new doctor.
So, just hearing Elvis say it's an amazing lab putty, there you go. There's a super awesome recommendation. So, call him.
Thanks for your support of the podcast, Kettenbach.
Thank you.
Voices from the bench. The interview. All right, here we are, LMT Lab Day Chicago 2020. I am with Dr. Mike Clark.
Oh, my.
Mike Clark and Tommy Rodgers, CDT.
From Iverson.
Iverson. I was going to say Inverness. That's another lab that I know.
Pretty close.
Yeah. I saw you, Tommy, yesterday at Cal Lab.
Correct.
You're up on the 3D denture panel. Very interesting. But then I also ran into you guys last night at the Vulcan party, and I found out you're sitting with the doctor you work with a lot.
Correct.
So this is an interesting dynamic that we don't get on the podcast very often.
Much less do we get in the same room since we're at two separate points of the West Coast.
Yeah.
So you guys aren't even close.
No, I'm in Central Washington, and Tommy's in Southern California.
So how the heck did you hook up with this guy?
Well, I had that's a bit of a long story. It's something like there was a lab that I worked very closely with, owned by Jeremy Wallers. Jeremy and I had worked together years when Jeremy decided to take a permanent position with Kulzer.
Yes.
And so when he did that left me in the unfortunate position of not having a technician with which I had a very close relationship.
You didn't just take the next flyer you got in the mail and start sending your work to him?
No.
I didn't know?
It's not that. Well, to me, the relationship is super important, and some of the cases that we take on, to me, require that kind of relationship.
Sure, yeah.
But I enjoyed the control of being closely associated with a lab, and so I bought his lab.
Okay, so you bought a dental lab.
Yeah.
Did Jeremy have employees?
Yeah, himself.
No, and he had an employee. But it's a small lab, and so I took that. But I don't have the time and, frankly, the experience or training to be a lab technician. And so I have hired a technician, but even then, not with the level of experience that Jeremy had. And really, it's hard to find a super well-trained, experienced technician in the United States.
You're in a room full of them right now.
From a dentist's perspective, that's been challenging. And
sure.
So Jeremy introduced Tommy and I. I hit it off with Tommy right away. We were in the middle of some fairly complex implant rehab cases when Jeremy was hired away.
Oh.
So it was also really interesting because Tommy had, without really being involved in the treatment planning process, was sort of thrown into picking up those cases at the place that they were and bringing them to completion. And we're still actually working on some of those larger cases.
Really? So what sort of mess did he leave you with?
That's the way I always put it, but I always get heckled into talking it down. So a lot of what was left for me to take over was I'd say we probably had a handful of them that were in their temporization phases and things of that nature. But what was really intriguing to me was how they temporized, the materials they used, and how they went about it. Jeremy was really big into the implant world with Mike, and he liked to experiment along with Mike using like trilorer trinia fiber composite bars as opposed to the traditional titanium bars.
Yeah.
So at that point at Iverson, we had been researching other materials and things like that and wanting to get into that, because for those that do know Iverson and know us, we've been in the full arch world for probably the last 10 to 12 years as far as immediate load goes. So that's kind of how I was introduced to Jeremy, was through that immediate load. And on the West Coast, when he would come through and lecture, I was one of the technicians that would constantly heckle him at Lab Day West, DLOAC, and things like that. So we had that relationship we were building off of. And when he did jump on with Colzer, it was one of the smoothest transitions, because I had already been a frequent user of Colzer products and things like that. And that's when he hooked me up with Mike. And pretty much I was able to take a lot of the cases that he had started with Mike from that temporization phase, get a little bit further in-depth look at how Jeremy and Mike treatment planned these cases and executed them, but was able to, probably Jeremy's dismay, is push a lot of those to the final prosthetic portion when Jeremy was only able to take it to the temporization phase.
Interesting. Were you doing the Trilor and the Trinia before?
I had tested it, and we had done some sample cases, and we were toying around with the idea, but because it had been such a new development, it wasn't something that we jumped in head first. Part of the issue that kind of came about is we've been immersed in the implant world for, that's what the lab, Iverson is an implant specialty lab. That's what we founded the business on in 91. But what really pushed the envelope was the fact that we were trying to migrate our removables to digital removables, and I had, we'll call it an extreme reservation about it up until about 2 years ago. So I was having to deal with my traditionally processed removables, which I was comfortable with, and it was, a business within a business, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But now I was contemplating digital removables along with adding in Trilor and Trinia and fiber composite bars. So it kind of pulled me out of my comfort zone a little bit more than I was comfortable with, obviously. But in true Jeremy and Mike fashion, they gave me that extra push and slap around when I needed to.
Yeah.
To
so what were you doing before? Titanium bars?
Yeah, just titanium, cobalt, things like that. And zirconia full arch substructures, non-reinforced at the time until we started reinforcing the zirconia arches with bars.
So as a doctor, is that what you were looking for, Trinia bars, or is this introduced to you through Jeremy, hey, try this?
No, I think as a doctor, what I was looking for was to continue the kind of relationship that I had with Jeremy as a lab technician. That was my primary motivating.
And what's the best thing that he brought to the table? Because we know it's not looks.
No,
his charming attitude.
Kidding. I'm just trashing the guy here. I'm just kidding.
Jeremy and I worked together in treatment planning, and I think one of the things that was unique, especially in big implant cases, is he and I and a surgeon would actually sit down together with. When we started, it was sort of pre-CBCT even.
Wow.
And so we'd sit down with models and radiographs and treatment plan the whole case from beginning to end together.
Yeah.
With the surgeon, the lab tech. And it sort of sounds, it's what everybody says, well, of course, that's what we should do, but it just doesn't happen.
It doesn't. Even at our lab. I think I've done it a handful of times.
Yeah, Jeremy and I had a good relationship, and we were able to work very closely together from the beginning of a case all the way through to the end. And both of us were always asking, what's the next best way to do this? How can we improve the process? How can we improve the predictability, long-term outcome for the patient, all those things. And we were both willing to try new things.
Yeah.
And but that relationship was the thing I was after. And so, and because of that, Jeremy and I started lecturing together years ago, and it was a novel concept, it seemed, for a dentist and a lab technician to partner.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds outrageous. Of course, everybody calls that a partnership, but not the kind of way that we had partnered.
No, we just want your business. We don't want to be seen with you.
And that's a mutual understanding between the provider, the dentist, and the lab, right? But then when Jeremy moved on to Colzer, I was after a similar relationship, with the lab. I don't want a lab I just drop something in the mail to and they send me something back.
Yeah.
And so Tommy at Iverson and I text. He's in Southern California, so I was used to having Jeremy right there. His building was adjoining my building.
Oh, wow.
I would go next door and say, hey, come look at this bite. It seems like it's a little open. Or, back in those days, hey, I've got this wax rim in. How can I best mark it so that when you're setting the teeth, you understand what it is that we're after? So we really worked intimately together with patients.
That's hard to.
Now, it's a lot of texting. It's a lot of, hey, here's a picture of my setup, or here's a picture of the patient. But it's working.
Yeah. So how long has this been going on?
I don't know, a year.
A year?
About a year and a half.
How many
like that.
cases do you guys usually?
Well, we've done a lot because he's doing regular. I do quite a lot of just conventional removable pros.
Okay.
And
So this is not all big arch
Oh, no.
conversions and
Nope.
stuff.
No, we've done a couple full arch conversions, and the beauty of
Do
that.
you fly up there for the
I
conversion?
did that once. I did a fly up there for the first conversion because where it got kind of unique with the partnership with me and Iverson with Dr. Clark was the fact that I mentioned before that I was a little apprehensive about digital removables up until about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Obviously now everything we do is digital and we're having great success with it. But even before that, I was fully immersed in guided surgery, and I've been doing that for the last 8 years,
Yeah.
and that's graduated into full arch guided implementation and things like that. So where Jeremy was pretty much handed off the baton, I could fill in that gap or that lack of intimacy that Dr. Clark was missing with us that he had with Jeremy by completing webinars and things like that for our guided surgical plans, design review and things like that. All I had to have him do was jump in front of his computer when he had time, and he would be able to log into my software, review it, make changes, approve it, things like that for the larger cases. So in essence, it almost was like us being in the next room. We just had to make sure we scheduled our time accordingly,
Sure.
and he could complete that process in that manner.
So do you do your own conversions now?
Well, I had. Now that I have Tommy, it depends on the complexity of the conversion.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that, although if there are unique extenuating circumstances, I'm not a lab tech.
Yeah. So you'll bring them up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's no substitute to me for that relationship, and I don't actually have a relationship with Iverson. I have a relationship with Tommy.
Yeah.
So to me, I want to find a technician who we can come to an understanding, and initially that requires an immense amount of communication. But as time goes on, now Tommy's like, oh, I know how Mike's going to want that. And I'm the same. I know what Tommy's going to want in terms of my record taking so that he can provide a good product.
Yeah.
The more cases we do, the less that needs to be spoken. But initially, that's hey, Tommy's on the phone. Unless I am actively prepping, I'll take his call. That's a priority.
Yeah.
That's the only way it works.
And it's kind of unique in the synergy and the way it works is the last case that I did go up there for was a fully guided stackable development with a digital denture with a reinforcement to it. So I had done a few of them. Mike had not done a whole lot of them in that technique. I've done hundreds of conversions over my career. Mike's done. We're both well versed in it, but this was a new technique that we were trying to bring to the table and say, hey, this is your conversion in a box, your guide in a box. We had the surgeon on board with it. We had Mike on board with it. I was on board with it. We were all dancing to the same tune. And what made it kind of comical in the fact is when we got up there, it turned into a 15-minute conversion. So we kind of scheduled the whole day, and the majority of the day was scheduled around the surgeon.
15 minutes?
15-minute conversion.
The actual conversion part, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And all of us sort of were like, well, that was kind of anticlimactic. We thought there would be more.
That's insane.
It was, yeah.
And it wasn't a prefabbed. You hear about those, like chrome and smile in a box?
In essence, that's what it is. It's a form of it, but there's some nuances that I've changed to it to kind of make it a little bit more unique and a little bit more user-friendly. But it also allows for a little bit more margin of error because the Chrome Guided Smile, the NDX and Sequence, I mean, they're all great products. We've used them. I've actually been present in a lot of the conversions because even though those are conversions in a box, I still have a lot of the surgeons in my territory that are, like Mike had said, it's still a little uneasy when you are just the clinician there dealing with it because the clinicians aren't lab techs, just like the lab techs aren't clinicians. And not only are we not legalized to do that kind of work, it's not something that we want to put ourselves in front of. So it's kind of funny that they would use that Chrome or use that in Sequence and still want a technician there just for that comfort level.
Sure.
So our version of it just gave us a little bit more of a leg to stand on because it allows for a little bit more margin of error, and the clinicians understand it. It's not as confusing. They don't have 35 boxes to sift through when they're dealing with it. Everything's nice, neat, and labeled in the case pen. It's shipped up in.
Yeah, but, man, you still can't beat that conversion time. That's pretty nice. I bet you the patient loved that.
Yeah, I don't think you can get him back in for his – we saw him once for the post-op, and I don't think you can get him back in the office now, can you?
No,
to do the final?
He's been good. We haven't taken that case all the way to final. That's still pending. We just spend an enormous amount of time, I think, in preoperative treatment planning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that.
That sounds cliche, I guess.
Yeah.
But, what is it? Predictable outcome, predictable income?
Yep.
Sorry, Jeremy.
Yeah, that's his line.
So how many conversions do you do where you don't see the patient for the final? Does that happen very often? You hear about the stories.
So I got a funny story about that. It was 2 days before, so I think it was Thursday of last week, and I was prepping for Chicago. So I get a call from one of my accounts down in San Diego, and he says, "Hey, Tommy, so I had this patient we converted and finished about 1.5 years ago, and he called me. He's now moved to Florida." Okay. So he called me and said, "Hey, my appliance broke. I need it fixed. Can you get me taken care of? I don't understand why this happened. I paid a lot of money for this. I need this fixed. I'm going to fly back. I want it in 2 weeks." He says, "Okay, go ahead and send it in. Let me take a look at it." I figure, okay, worst case scenario, it's a strip. It's a retread on a titanium bar, right? So I get it back in, and this was at the start of when I started my digital removables with Colzer and the Cara printer and whatnot. So I'm taking a look at it, and this appliance that he wanted remade was a printed try-in, unreinforced.
What happened to their finish? You said it went to finish.
That's what the doctor told me. I could not find record of the finished product on my end in my dashboard, so I figured, okay, I've got a clerical issue. I got to go back to my records and really get to the bottom of this. And so when I touched base with the doctor, I had him go through his account records. He goes, "Tommy, I saw this patient for the delivery of the try-in." And so you're negating yourself. You're delivering the try-in when that should have just been tried in, equilibrated, and sent back for me to finalize and add the bar for support underneath.
Wow.
He said, "Well, the patient loved it so much, I figured I'd let him go off and try it." And I'll be honest, I completely forgot to recall him to bring it back in. So a printed
over a
Dima
year?
teeth and base lasted over a year.
Wow.
Unreinforced.
What part failed?
The distal cantilever to
Yeah.
number 20 was the distal most on the lower left side. It snapped right at that access channel.
How far do you cantilever on a temporary?
On the temporary, I don't. I might go half a tooth and make sure it's completely out of occlusion just because I'm a stickler. I don't want to give them half a premolar or something like that at the temporary. I want to go back as far as I can. But since I don't reinforce my temporaries when they're unguided, I won't go back past maybe 3-4 millimeters past that last implant. If it's reinforced, I believe that case you and I did. We went back to first molar.
With the Trilor reinforcement, we went.
So the temporary you converted with Trilor?
So the temporary it's a little unique in the aspect that it's a Trilor reinforced printed denture. So we printed the teeth and base in Dima print material, but before I printed it, I designed a Trilor wafer. You can get it in wafer form. Comes in 3-pack wafer form. We get them from Preet, or I think you can get them from Digital Dental. A couple other places like Bio's selling them now too. But I use the wafers just because they're inexpensive. It's a $25 or $30 reinforcement, and I can loot that to the model and then scan my model in and design a denture underneath it. When it comes out, I just simply add that Trilor wafer to the printed denture because it fits so intimately.
Yeah.
And I use the parent photopolymer material to embed that in that appliance, leaving myself about 4 to 6 millimeters for tissue gap. So then that's my finished denture that seats on top of my foundation guide. And when I get up to Mike's and they've got the foundation guide in place and we're ready to convert that denture, we pick it up with the patient full flap reflection. So Mike will pick up the cylinders in the mouth through this foundation guide. We remove it, and then the surgeon's able to close the flap, and then we take that back in the laboratory and backfill and attach the cylinders fully to that appliance, and then we've now added that additional photopolymer to the integral surface of the denture.
Wow.
And while the surgeon is closing, Tommy is retrofitting so that's why that was so fast, because before the sutures are completely placed, Tommy's back with the appliance ready to be delivered.
So you're done before the surgery?
Yeah, it's kind of a race.
The other way. No. I always hear it the other way.
That's what was one
that
of the
was
things
the plan.
That was so
unique. We went into this wanting to be done with the conversion before the surgeon was ready for us. Is what I always go in there shooting for.
Wow.
That's what makes the team approach so valuable, in my opinion, because we've got all three of us there dancing to the same tune. But yet, we almost make it a competition in that aspect because we're trying to race the surgeon to completion so we can get that patient out there.
But it must be nice that you have a whole lab right next door.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people you hear about them doing in the closet of the.
That's normally where I'm at. I'm normally in a 5x5 closet.
Yeah, without any air or anything. Do you have that little travel kit you take with you?
Yeah,
with all your stuff?
I use a rigid stackable cases, a modular case. I have 4 of them
very
stacked
popular.
Together.
Yeah, got all your little tools and everything. Yeah.
I'm printing in my lab, and that's really become probably most of what I do in-house now.
What are you printing?
Full dentures.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, recently, probably one of the most fun stories I've had recently from printing was I had a dentist who'd never sent work to our lab send me upper and lower immediates. And I didn't actually hear from him for a while. But his assistant calls me on a Thursday at the end of the day and says, hey, we're in big trouble. We did the surgery to deliver those immediate dentures. In the middle of the surgery, the patient started bleeding significantly, and it turned out had not reported that they were on blood thinners. Right?
Yeah.
So we ended up getting the rest of the teeth out, but the post-operative bleeding was very challenging to control, so we didn't deliver the dentures. We did send the patient home with the dentures in their post-surgical care bag. When the patient got home in their drug-induced state, they threw the post-surgical care bag in the garbage.
Oh, jeez.
The garbage man then collected it the next morning, and when the patient came back to the office, he said, oh, hey, doc, if it's okay, I don't think I have those dentures anymore. Can you just make me some new ones? Well, they're now immediate post-extraction, sutures, open wound. We're not. So the assistant calls and says, hey, what can we do? We can't leave this patient without teeth for 6 weeks or 2 months. And it was the best feeling ever to say, I could have them for you this afternoon.
That's awesome.
But tomorrow morning would be more convenient. And that, just being able to reproduce, the reproducibility of that complete denture locked that account. I mean, that dentist is now a loyal advocate of
that's cool
of 3D printing. And it's stories like that are kind of, I mean, that's a unique story maybe, but we can't underestimate the value of that being reproducible.
No. What are you printing on? The Colzer or
Colzer printer, yeah.
Yeah.
Colzer and Endema.
Nice.
That's been a very predictable and streamlined solution for me.
Me as well. I've got 4 of them.
Do you? That's a printer we have. It's a good little printer.
So versatile. I mean, I'm not only doing removables on it. I'm even doing my abutment placement jigs for all of my.
That's what we do on
implant
them,
department.
Models when we have to. Yeah.
Partial frames when you have to.
And from a clinician's perspective, it's so fast.
It is.
If I just need a model or something made quickly, I don't know of a faster way to fabricate it.
Yeah, a lot of these printers are built on the solution of you loading up the plate, then hitting the button.
Right.
And printing overnight.
Yeah, they say, no, just keep it going.
Yep.
Throw something on there, print it. Throw something on there, print it. And that's
eight
our
minutes
production works.
Yep.
We don't wait.
Yeah, and I think that we'll see more and more printers popping up in clinicians' offices for that reason.
Sure.
I think that's going to be the next big step with placement of printers and things like that. You're going to start seeing the same business model that you've seen with
mills.
Get your crown in an hour. You're going to get your denture in 2 hours or whatever it may take.
Yep.
And I still press back. I mean, we'll still, I don't know, I probably started with 15% printed. I figured I'd just use it for immediates and, stuff where the aesthetic value wasn't particularly high.
Yeah.
But to my surprise now, I'm probably 85% printed. And occasionally I'll want a nice layered tooth for an aesthetically challenging patient.
And I'm kind of the same. I still have, because like I said, when we converted to digital removables, we gave ourselves no other option. But we also didn't give our accounts any other option either if we were still working and doing their removables, so we still had to appease them. So I would like to say that I'm 100% printed dentures, but I'm not. I'm printing a lot of immediates, like Mike was saying.
Yeah.
But we're also still milling a lot of the 199 pucks and multi-layered teeth for those accounts that still demand that processed look and that processed fit. But it's grown our business by at least 30% over the last year.
Let me ask you, when you switched to digital, did you reach out to your accounts and say, we are switching to digital, you don't have a choice, and this is what you'll get, and this is how much? Or did you just make the switch?
I made the switch. I didn't even let them know.
Prices were the same?
Mm-hmm.
And what sort of feedback did you get?
So the feedback I got was, what did you change to? Most of the time we get a call, why do you have a new technician working on my work? What happened to Joe Smith? It's like,
that's my favorite question.
Now I get to tell them everything's so uniform, and we were able to implement a lot of our training techniques that we use in removables, because a lot of the techniques we used to train our removable techs when we could get them trained was the PTC, Jim Mahan, John Ness technique.
Yep, great stuff.
So we were able to translate that into our digital department, so we could use that same setup technique. And again, I was using Mondial teeth when I was running the removable department. Well, I'm able to do the same in the digital world. I can still use the Colzer Mondial library. So they're still getting the same contour, same mold, and same look to the acrylic when it's all said and done. The only thing they really had to deal with was the fact that it was more uniform in appearance. And it almost, and this was kind of something that I had to teach my CAD/CAM technicians, it was more of a crown and bridge arch setup than a bilateral denture occlusion.
I get that.
That's really all I had to change. Once they started seeing them milled, they didn't know any different. They just thought, wow, this thing came out so homogeneous and so gorgeous and so uniform thickness. This is amazing.
Yeah.
But when I did switch to printed, I had to let them know of the printed because at the time I hadn't trained my technicians on any composite layering techniques to doctor them up and make them look less monochromatic.
Yeah.
So those type of cases, I would have that conversation with my accounts just as more of a treatment planning phase rather than saying, hey, I'm switching all of my stuff to digital. You've got no other choice.
Yeah.
I made the approach more of a, hey, this is what I'm going to do on this case because I think it'll be more aesthetic for the long term.
And they're probably always game for it. I mean,
And I never got pushback from any one of them until I really pushed the envelope and tried printing stay plates. That's when it really
Printing
did.
what?
Stay plates.
Stay plates.
Yeah. So the material, unfortunately, and we knew this going into that, is not indicated for stay plates.
Yeah.
But as a technician, what are we going to do? We're going to push everything we possibly can to the limit. Some of them worked great, but when they want to start opening vertical and things like that and really putting the pressures to that material thickness is when we really started seeing failures.
Is any of you doing flexibles?
Mm-hmm. I actually do all of my flex. I don't do – so my flexibles are still a digital meets analog approach. So I'm designing all of my Valplast and TCS, which is the thermoplastics that we offer, along with Zerlux Duracetyl frames. The all thermoplastic partials, I'm designing those digitally, and I'm printing those on my DEMA. But I'm flasking and injecting the TCS or the Valplast. So I'm basically just completing the set digitally and the base digitally. Then I'm handing it off to my removal department, who's still flasking and investing that injection.
Yeah.
And then we print to cast our partial frames, and we also mill Zerlux acetyl.
Yep.
And we used to mill Visicler, but I think that's been discontinued, if I remember serves.
Yeah. Interesting. Do you do flexibles?
Some. Well, no. Let me back up. No, I don't. We don't manufacture them in the lab. I just send those to Tommy.
Yeah.
It's just not worth all of that work.
It's a huge pain in the.
Yeah, there's nothing about it that anybody likes.
No.
I'm very
honest.
I don't. There are sometimes I look at my lab sconce, but not with those.
Yeah.
Like those were a giant pain.
Well
to make.
worth it.
Yeah, money well spent when I had someone else.
We're
make one of
looking to
those.
find someone else to do it. I'm just tired of doing it. They're never great, and it's a headache, and people don't want to do them, and it's a challenge. And
that's a question my colleagues have asked a lot about. How did we make the transition clinically from a conventional flash denture to a digital denture? I guess by nature, I'm just always interested in what the new thing is. It's not always better, but I'm interested in it.
Sure.
And so I just couldn't wait to try one and see how it worked. But I think that's a personality structure issue, and many of my colleagues are less willing to embrace.
That's why I was shocked he didn't get any negative feedback.
So the things that I've talked about with them that I think have helped are, again, Mrs. So-and-so dropped her denture in the sink. What are you going to do? Well, I can just print a new one. And now I've been printing long enough that I'm starting to see the benefit of relines. So they're wearing a denture that they've been wearing for 5 years. It's time for a reline, and their greatest fear, every patient's fear in my office anyway, is my new denture going to look like my old one? Everybody knows how these teeth look, and I'm terrified that when you make my new denture, it won't look like my old one. And historically, we would duplicate it and do our best, but honestly, it's not exactly like the old one.
Sure, yeah.
Whereas now I can say, I don't think you'll be able to see the difference in 40 microns.
Yeah.
Which is
you
how
copy
close it'll be.
scan it. Yeah.
So I just do a light-bodied polyvinyl wash, rescan the intaglio surface, stitch that back onto their teeth as they were when we delivered it. So they're getting new teeth, and they can have a new denture. And at a cost that is not just a reline now, it's a new denture.
Do you think we'll ever get to the point in technology where that patient can bring in that old photo from them from the 1970s that's like from 12 feet away, and they're smiling, they say, I want it to look like this. Do you think we could ever just like scan that and get that to work? Don't you love those photos?
Well, once we start implementing more photogrammetry,
yeah, we're pretty close.
We're
We're not that far from being able to do that now.
I mean, when our generation's that old, we all have digital
we'll have an STL, right.
Yeah, we'll have tons of photos of ourselves on the internet, but I love those photos that come in from the 70s.
Their teeth are 1 pixel.
Yes.
All of their teeth occupy 1 pixel.
One mono block, make it look like that. I'm like,
yeah. Okay.
You want one tooth?
I could definitely do that.
Pretty sure we can do it.
I'm done. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on. This is some good stuff, man.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, your part on CalLab, I told you this last night. It blew away all those business people.
Well, thank you.
Because you're up there, everyone's like, well, we made money doing this, and we did, and then you're like, this is how we did it, and everyone's like, what the heck? It was
Give
nice.
yourself no other option, and I am the general manager, and I've never had the desire to go and open my own laboratory because of the relationship I have with the company I work for.
Yeah.
And it's allowed me to dive into technical more than I could have ever hoped, and that's the free reign that they've given me. So why not give it back and show this is how you give yourself no other option and how you show full commitment.
Yeah, working for a lab that allows you to do that, it's important.
I think clinicians will embrace it. I mean, although I say that, and I spent yesterday at the midwinter dental meeting, and I have spent today here at Lab Day. Lab Day's way cooler.
Oh, way cooler.
And the people are way cooler. This is the place to be.
The only thing they have over there is Crest giving out cool stuff. That's all I know about.
Yeah, I have thoroughly enjoyed my experience at Lab Day.
Yeah, they say it increases the dentists that come here just triple almost every year.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. When I'm looking at badges, there are
a lot of those.
Oh, yeah.
Both. Yeah, I've seen it too.
Most of the dentists, I think, that are here are interested, like I am, in a relationship with the technician, but ultimately because I want to control the outcome.
Yeah.
I have a vision in my mind of what I want the prosthesis to look like, and I don't know of a way to accomplish that without having a close relationship with a skilled technician.
Well, most of them write a script, write A2 on it, that's it, send it to us, and then when we don't meet those expectations
that have never been set from day one.
Owning a lab now has just opened my eyes. Many of my peers who I have held in high regard have fallen from grace. Really, I mean, people that I like, what do you mean he hasn't paid his lab bill? I didn't know that was a thing. You can just not pay your lab.
It's a big thing.
Or where there's no margin. This must be a mistake.
Yeah.
This must not. Surely Dr. So-and-so didn't send us an impression with no margin.
He's pulling your leg.
Right.
He finally understands loss leader.
It has really been an eye-opening experience, and I have a new regard for the plight of a technician because I just assumed, well, I'm a dentist and went to dental school like everybody else. We're probably all pretty similar. And that's not to say, I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying, if you did what you were taught in school, it would be that way. But I think that's,
I don't know.
I
can't tell you how many times we make calls on just the dumbest thing.
And I talked about this in a lecture, or I guess a roundtable yesterday. I think that one of the challenges I see now that I'm on sort of both sides of that fence is a really highly trained, competent lab technician ultimately enables not great dentistry. Because your training and ability and experience allows you to take something that's really marginal in terms of the output from my profession and turn it into something that's acceptable.
Yeah.
You have made a silk purse out of a sow's ear. But the message that sends the clinician is good enough. Good job, doctor. It worked
out fine. And what's that called, Elvis? It's called turning chicken into chicken salad.
Yeah. You are unwittingly teaching dentists that's good enough.
Yeah.
The outcome was fine, that's good enough. And it's really hard. I feed my family doing dentistry. So I have a position I understand of luxury where if an account provides me with what I consider to be a quality of work that's below the standard of care, I can just call them and say, I'm really sorry, I'm sure you were having a bad day, but I don't see a margin on this impression. Could you please take a new one? But because I have that financial security from my practice, if I were feeding my children as a lab technician,
we just do it.
That suddenly becomes an awkward call.
It does.
That's a key account. I can't piss this guy off, and so I'll just make it work because I have to. And that's a really regrettable downside to the relationship between the technician and the dentist, and I'd like to be able to overcome that.
Well, digital impressions were supposed to change all that, but
yeah,
nope.
And they have.
People who didn't care about polyvinyl impressions are people who didn't care.
Yeah.
They're not going to care suddenly because it's digital.
Crap.
Right.
Yeah. Now I can just hit a button. I don't have to look at it.
That makes crap way faster.
Still going to generate the same crap.
Yeah. So that's been an interesting, enlightening path for me.
I bet. You'd come into our lab and you'd shake your head and cry a little, I'm sure. We have some terrible.
My suspicion is it's just representative of labs across the country.
Yeah.
And it's not far from the truth.
Yeah. No. All right, enough bitching about doctors.
And see, Mike's a different breed of doctor. I wish every one of my doctors were like Mike, because it's amazing the relationship that he's built with us. And he's just one of the coolest doctors that we can work with, and he's the most down-to-earth. And if we do have a problem, I'm not sitting there on the phone thinking, oh, my God, Mike's going to be so upset about this. He's going to tell me to make it work. I said, no, he gets it. He understands what I'm
Well, I'm going to say
against.
Thank you, because I require what I understand now, and I mean, it makes sense, but it took courage to call me, right? That's a confrontation that someone had to build up the courage and sort of think about, how am I going to say this so I don't offend this person.
Yeah.
And that's something that I, now that I understand that takes courage to accomplish, it's something to say thank you for. I know that was an uncomfortable call. I know you would rather have not made it. And the fact that you did shows that you trust our relationship and you care about the product enough that you're willing to overcome that. So thank you for that.
And we don't get that. I can't tell you how many times doctors have told me, just call me if there's ever an issue. And then you call them, and then you call them again, and then you call them again. And now they stop sending you work.
And that's the best you can get, right?
Yeah.
Well, for all that, I'm sorry.
As you speak for all dentists.
That's the spokesperson for just me.
Hope the ADA doesn't know.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for sitting down. It's great to meet both of you.
Yeah,
Thanks for having
fun.
us.
Thanks for having us.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
Okay.
We're not going to be able to pronounce it. We're gonna call him Bob.
Well, you can try it. It's Ionut Pitu.
How about you? We'll let him
I know that.
spell himself.
Ionut Pitu.
Ionut Pitu.
Ionut Pitu.
I can't pronounce.
I can barely pronounce her name.
Yeah.
I know. I've listened almost all of your podcasts, so...
Is it on?
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right, so go ahead. You do the introduction. We'll
Well,
let him
I
say
think we
his
already
own name.
started. We are here with Ionut Pitu.
Ionut Pitu.
Thank you.
From Romania.
Romania. So
And
this
he's a
gentleman,
listener.
this
Go
gentleman
ahead.
sent me an email after we found out through Apple Podcast that we were number one in the medical
Romania.
category in Romania, and I was all like, "What the heck? How did that even happen?" Months later, this guy emails me and goes, "I think it's my fault.
That's so
I'm the
cool.
one that listened, and I'm the one that shared with friends." I was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." He's like,
Yeah.
"I'm going to be at Lab Day," and I'm like, "You better come record with us."
How did you find us in Romania? Just
Well, I've been watching the Facebook group, the Three Shape Study Facebook group.
Yep.
And I've heard that you're going to interview Savan Pelurian.
Yep.
And I said, okay, I know this guy. I want to listen to the interview. So, to be honest, I tried to listen one of your podcasts before, but probably I just got the wrong episode. So, just didn't.
It's probably an early one.
yeah, we've improved slightly.
Then that was at the end of the week, but the interview was about to come on Monday.
Yeah.
So before that, you were a very interesting interview with the guy from Harvest,
Sasha
Deravanesian.
He blew all of our minds.
Yeah, and I was really, really impressed.
Yeah.
And then I started to listen to the podcast from early.
Yeah.
And I listened some interview with Lee Kalp. which I
Yeah.
also know.
that
So
was
I
fun.
followed just the name I knew for the
Yes.
for the beginning.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
it was really, really interesting. And then I started to listen to your podcast.
Sweet.
And listen. I have 30 minutes or maybe 45 minutes commute.
Yeah.
So it's perfect for one episode almost.
There you go. Yeah. That's nice.
So I listen almost all of your podcast.
That's awesome.
That's nice.
And
Thank
to
you.
be honest, one of the reasons I am here is because of you.
Shut
And
up.
Yeah, because I was so intrigued. I wanted to see you guys are doing business and so on. So I also have a friend, let's call it, here, and he invited me, okay, come over me and see my lab. I said, oh, it's a little bit far, but why not?
Why
And
not?
Yeah.
he sent me a link with the LMT Day, and I said, okay, I've never been here. This year it's not the IDS show, so it should be interesting. Why not?
So what do you think? Is it amazing or what?
Oh, yes.
It's
Oh, yeah.
huge. Thousands and
This guy's
thousands
used to
and
IDS.
thousands
He's
of
used to
people.
IDS.
Oh, you're used to IDS?
Here it's not so huge, but the lecture here, it's really nice.
Are they good?
Yeah. So it's, I think it's better than the IDS.
Great. That's
IDS,
good.
okay, it's also for the dentist side, so it's
I see.
really big.
Yeah.
It's really big. But
So you own a lab? Or
I
are you
own a lab, yes.
So what is your favorite thing to do at the bench? Are you at the bench or are you running the lab?
well, I'm running the lab. I still do some things.
Yeah.
Mostly digital.
Don't we all?
Yeah. Mostly digital. So I don't like to work too much, to be honest.
So how long ago did you start your lab?
I have my lab from 1999.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So
That's a
it's
long
20
time.
years.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And this year I partnered with a guy who is producing all kinds of material for dental use. So we try to do something different. We have a milling center, a printing center. We We have a 3D printer, so we try to...
20 printers?
No, with 3D printer.
Oh, 3D printer.
Yeah,
okay.
a metal 3D printer.
Yeah,
so we try to do something different.
Sure.
But I also have my own lab, 9 people, I believe.
Yeah,
I always have to count on my finger. Yeah.
So are you looking at any new printers or any new materials at the show? Or are you just
I
going to
want
enjoy
to
the
get
lectures?
into digital denture, to be honest.
Yeah, that's really big here this year.
Yeah. I have a PM7 from Ivoclar, so...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I have that as well. It's a nice
It's
machine.
really nice, yes.
Yeah.
So this is what I hear, and I watch all over the lecture with the 3D printer, 3D denture 3D printer, 3D printer denture.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, and I think they are getting there.
They're getting closer.
How advanced is Romania compared to the United States? Is it farther along in the digital dentures and things? Or?
Digital denture, I don't think there are too many guys who make digital
In
denture.
Romania, there's not?
No.
Yeah, so you're going to be first to market, maybe?
Probably.
Nice.
Yeah.
At least no one mills them. I know a few guys that are printing.
Yeah.
But the printed one are not yet there.
I get it.
So it has to be a little bit time.
Do you still do PFMs?
I do PFMs, around 30%, 40%, and the rest is zirconia, of course.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question.
What sort of differences do you see in Romania and America?
Well, the main difference is the size.
Yeah.
So
lab size?
Lab size, the market size, and everything. Even the car size. So everything here is big.
Yeah.
For example, my lab would be very small here, a very small one here.
But it's considered big in Romania?
Not big, but a medium.
Yeah,
so most of the labs in Romania, it's 2-3 people maybe.
Yeah.
There are a few big labs, let's call it like this. They have maybe 100.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
That's big. That's very big.
Yeah.
But there are 2 or 3, I believe, something like this. But otherwise, the labs are pretty small. So it's 1-man lab, 2-3 man.
What's the education like? Is it?
So it was one of the surprise. Listening to your podcast, I know that here everybody can work in a dental lab.
Yeah, definitely.
So here,
so
not
do you
here.
need a degree?
Yes, in Romania
Really?
you have to have a convention.
2 year or 4 year?
3 years.
Wow.
3 years. Yes. So
That's
we
amazing.
have to have a degree in.
You have to just sit at a bench.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then how would somebody like you want to become a dental technician? Like, how do they promote it? Because most of our interviews, you either know somebody or a family member. But, like, how did you find yourself in this industry?
Well, myself, I'm a lucky guy. So my sister is a dentist.
Okay, there you go.
She is 7 years older than me. And about 14 years old, I said, should be an interesting combination. So I like to do things with my hands, so I thought I should be a dental technician.
Wow.
So I went this way. So I knew I was going to be a dental technician since 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you get your sister's work?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
just
I
want
was
to make
going
sure.
to say.
Sometimes you
Yeah,
don't
better.
know. Sometimes you just don't know.
So do you go in treatment plan and seek cases and
Yes,
do any of that?
I want to do this mostly.
Yeah.
So I've been listening to Lee Kalb's today and also on your podcast, and
Oh
I
my
really
God.
like the way he does business and the way he sees dentistry. So that's the way I want to do things. So
I was watching him at CalLab,
Yeah.
and they're now scanning the whole face, and it was
It's
just
really
so far
interesting.
ahead of anything
Yeah.
I've seen. It was unbelievable. So he just keeps advancing his way all the way out. I'm
It's making
telling
us
you.
all look bad.
I know. It's pretty impressive.
But that's what I want to do. So I have some knowledge, let's say. So I've been on doctor's courses and so on. So not everybody can do it.
Sure.
So why not?
Yeah.
I need to be something else, something different from the others.
Yeah.
So
you love what you do, I'm sure, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm not sure my wife
So do
loves
I.
what I do.
The spouses usually don't. The spouses usually they don't understand why we think about it at home. And
A lot of hours.
They don't understand why we don't just leave at 5 o'clock. You know, they just don't get it.
I saw one of your Facebook posts, and they're laying in bed, and she's like, I wonder what he's thinking about. And then you look at the guy, and he's going, I wonder if I turn the mill off.
Yeah.
I wonder how
Yeah.
the zirconia is doing.
Yeah.
And she's thinking something different, and we're always thinking dentistry.
Yeah.
At least I am. Most everybody I know is, I should say.
You cannot escape from this. So sometimes I would like to do something else, or maybe not think so much about this, but all day, all night, in weekends, and every time.
It's all
And
consuming.
then you go on vacation, and what do? You go to a dental laboratory conference. I mean,
Yeah.
Luckily, I have some hobbies, and I can get away a little bit from this. But otherwise, and the kids keep asking me. Oh, they say, okay, my house it's in the lab, so I live in the lab for them.
oh, is your lab at your house?
No.
Oh.
But I
You
spend
live
more
there.
time.
He's basically
No.
saying I live at the lab.
spend
Yes,
more
I get
time
it.
there than home.
My father
Yeah.
did too. I can tell you that. Yep.
So what's next for you in your lab? What's the name of your lab?
It's Quartz Dental
Quartz
Lab.
Dental Lab.
Yeah.
Like it?
Well, as I told you, I want to have a better collaboration with doctors.
Yeah.
So for offering a service. So
Do you guys do implant planning now? And
I have some doctors that are doing it.
Yeah.
So we are just in the beginning, but it's really promising.
what's the big software? Do you have is co-diagnostic in
No. We
Romania?
use Implant Studio from TreeShape.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
And because I work mostly with MIS implant,
Is that big in there? MIS?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I use their software, the M-Guide, so they have their own software for their
Nice.
implants. Yes.
Nice.
Great. Good for
And
you.
it's,
I had no idea
Stay
MIS
ahead
was
of the
big there.
curve. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Me neither.
We see a good amount of MIS in Indiana.
I think it's 60% from Romania.
Really?
market.
That's a big market
Yeah.
share.
Oh, maybe
Wow.
less now because there are also Megagen from Korea, so they are also
Megagen's there, yeah.
But otherwise, you don't hear a lot of Straumann and
You don't?
So, no,
Interesting.
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's funny how that all works out.
Well, that's the difference between Romania and United States, for example. So that's, but mainly the labs are the same. So
Yeah.
just the size of them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thank you for reaching out to Elvis and
Thank
myself.
you for having
and
me
thank you
here.
for
Yeah.
coming
It
to
was
see
nice
us.
talking to you.
It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Now you can spread your own interview. Tell everybody you're on the podcast.
Well.
And we'll be number one continuously in Romania.
Well, my kids will be happy.
There
Yeah.
you go.
You're going to be a rock star.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Have a great
Thank you
meeting.
very much. It was nice
I was
meeting
going to try
you.
to say your name again, but I didn't even try.
Ionut Pitu.
Ionut Pitu.
Got the Pitu,
You're
right?
close.
Yeah.
You're close. You're close.
Very impressive.
But Bob, it's easier.
Bob.
Yeah, I speak with a lot of people on the radio, so I'm a radio amateur, and it was difficult for them also.
Yeah.
And Bob, it's really easy.
Did you just pick Bob or?
No, actually, it's funny. Bob, I was called Bob from a little.
Really?
Yeah, it was initially bump, like a bump,
Yeah.
but it got shorter and shorter, and I got that with Bob.
Bob.
So
There you
It's my
work.
dad's
everybody,
name. Yep.
go.
everybody knows me as Bob.
Then
Cool.
there you go. Bob
And
from Romania.
That's a heck of a lot easier for you
Yeah.
to say.
Thank you very
And
much,
me.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you very
it.
much.
Take
Thank
care.
You. Thank you.
LMT Lab Day Chicago 2020, Saturday. Joined once again from a gentleman we talked to at the Eastern Conference, Joshua Fitzgerald.
Hey,
What's
how
up,
y'all doing?
man?
Hi,
Good.
good morning.
Good.
I
Yeah,
think- I
very
think-
busy here.
Yeah,
Very
I think
busy.
last time we talked to you, you talked a lot about your one-person lab
That's correct.
and kind of growing with the times.
Still
steeping up
growing.
on technology.
Still
so.
growing.
So what are you looking at here? When
So
you talk about growing, are you looking at a printer?
I'm looking at everything. Mostly zirconia right now. Just checking out the different pucks they have, and there's so many on the market right now. So just kind of
Yeah.
evaluating, and
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a lot of similarities
What do you
between
use
a lot
now?
of them. So right now I am using a puck by America Smile.
We talked
called-
about this, how you got they're blocks, right?
Yeah, well, I have a bigger mill now.
Oh, what'd you
Since
get?
the last
you.
time we spoke, I purchased the Armand Garbach.
I hear good things.
I
about
do
it.
too, actually.
Yeah, so
We
it's
use
very,
their zirconia.
Very good
A lot
mill.
of it.
Very beefy mills. It's nice now being able to have the 98 millimeter puck, so you have a lot more options.
Yeah.
But still, that little mill that I have, I use as much as I do the big mill.
I think people were shocked when you were on the podcast talking about how much it broke down to cost.
Yeah.
People were like,
under $2 a unit.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So yeah, I'm looking at some, the zirconia and some PMMA and wax pucks and whatnot. So really pushing myself into the digital world. It's kind of cut back. Putting that waxing unit on the shelf and letting the machine do a lot of the work now. And the only time I do a wax, if I'm pressing something, just putting a sprue on it. Just putting on a sprue on the crown that I just milled.
Nice.
Are you doing any layering or any PFMs, or are you mostly?
So I still do some PFMs, and actually we're sitting here in the Argent booth, and they're the ones who do my frameworks.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Most of my dentists that do PFMs, they want high noble, so I'm using, they do the DPM where they print the pattern and then cast it and send it back to me, and I'm layering porcelain.
Do you use their new, Palladium Plus?
I haven't tried that yet because my dentists don't want the noble; they want high noble.
They want high noble. Okay.
So I think that's probably a good alternative because Palladium's just really
expensive.
It's stupid.
It's unbelievable how
I can't believe anybody would use
my
that
copings
anymore.
now are. I mean, the cheapest I'm paying for a coping I think is $120 a unit
God.
for a coping. It's ridiculous.
Do you pass that on to your clients?
Of course.
Please tell me you
And
do.
mark it up.
Of course.
I was going to
You
say,
have to.
that's got to be one hell of an expensive
They're the
PFM.
one asking for it.
Very, yeah.
Oh
And I
my
said,
God.
"You sure you don't want zirconia?" "Oh no, I've been doing this for so many
Yeah,
years."
yeah.
Like, hey, I'm here to please.
Yeah. I'll
It's
do
most
whatever
of
you
the
want me
older
to do.
ones that
You're
still
here to
do
pay.
it
I'm here to
anyways.
please. Let's do it.
Yep.
So we do that, and then they also mill my full gold crowns as well.
Those
I
things
use
are
them.
beautiful.
They are amazing.
Yeah.
They are amazing.
They do ours too,
Yeah.
and phenomenal how clean they are.
Very clean.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of finishing when you get them back in the
No.
lab. Just kind of touch them where the sprue was, and you sandblast the inside, a little polishing, and we're good to go.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, it's a nice partnership.
So,
with
yeah,
labs they
very,
have.
very streamlined. And that's being a one-man lab. Everything I do has to be very efficient, very streamlined. So that's how we are able to work the 40-hour weeks and take the weekends
have some
off
balance?
and have
Yeah.
vacation
Wow.
time with the family.
Good for you.
So if you don't do that, oh goodness gracious, you
you
talk to so many people nowadays who really talk bad about the profession. People who have been doing this for 20, 30 years and say, "Oh man, I wish I would have never got into it, but this is the only thing I know how to do." And I'm like, "Well, how much do you work?" And I'm like, "Well, I work 10 hours a day. Sometimes I work Saturday and Sunday." I'm like, "That's why you hate your job.
Yeah.
That's why you hate your job, because you
Yeah.
work all the damn time." I love my job. I work 40 hours a week, and that is it. And I take 2 vacations a year with the family.
Good for you.
I love it.
Yeah.
You just have to.
I
you
love
have-
my job
yeah.
too.
You have to
I
learn
really
how
do.
to streamline things, and if you're a small lab and you don't have your lab streamlined, you are in for a rude awakening. And especially in the digital world now, if you're not on board with the digital,
Yeah.
God help you, because you're going to struggle. Because outsourcing, if you're going to outsource all that stuff, it's going to eat so far into your profit. You're going to be, I mean, it's like you can go bag groceries for more, get paid
Yeah.
more for doing that than you
Yeah.
can
Sure.
at the bench. So you need to be on board with the digital.
So when you went from block milling to puck milling, are you increasing your amount of production, or are you just getting things done quicker so you have more free time?
I am getting things done quicker so that I can start doing some more marketing to get more accounts in the door.
Nice.
So-
Because you're all
Smart.
by yourself.
I'm
so-
all by myself, but I tell you what, now with the digital aspect in the laboratory, I mean, it's like I have a 3-4-man lab because the machines are doing so much of the work now. And so I am able to produce what I'm doing now a lot faster and still have a lot of time. I mean, I can knock out some serious work now. I mean, serious work being a one-man lab.
Yeah.
And then, the more accounts I get, I'll need people to come in and run the machines. But for now, I mean, I can do it, no problems. And the great thing about it is the mills don't talk back to me. They never they never
that's
take
so true.
vacation. The
They
printer's
run
always
all
there.
night.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, and
They don't complain about the other piece of equipment.
No, they're never sick. I love it. But yeah, I would like to grow a little bit, get a few more people in there, and I don't want to get too big because you really don't need to anymore. I mean, you can stay small and still make a really good living doing what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of small labs that these guys are. I mean, they're driving around in Porsches and Land Rovers and and have big fancy houses. You're like, wow, that's. And you ask them how they do it, and it's digital.
Yeah.
It's digital. And,
so you mentioned marketing. How do you market?
I do a lot of marketing on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm hearing that more and more.
Facebook is amazing, and it's cheap.
Yeah.
It's
because
free.
it's free for me, because I just go on these dentist websites and start posting stuff. And then,
really? That's how you're doing it, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, just post pictures, and you start interacting with some of these guys, and then they start asking questions, and then you start to form a little bit of a relationship, and then boom, somebody ticks them off, and then all of a sudden they're calling you or sending you a message. Hey, Josh, can you? Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty smart.
You know what's worked for us? Just a couple of times, but there's a lot of dentist groups on Facebook, and they'll post like, "Where's this screw from?" or "Identify this implant."
I've seen that.
And if you're able to be one of the first few to answer that, I've actually gotten work from it. They're like, "You name this screw? Oh, that's amazing. Where can I get one?" Well, actually, I have one.
Right.
Are you interested? And then next thing you know, you're creating a new account.
Yeah. Guess what? I also do zirconia.
Yeah. By the way, I'll send you this screw along with this package.
Right.
And some return shipping labels.
Yeah. Let's just fill the box up, baby.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Look how easy this is. And I just saved your ass.
Right.
Beep.
Yeah.
I just saved it by finding this screw. You had no idea what it was.
Absolutely.
That is the kind of, but that doesn't come from just posting your work. You got to get in there and interact.
Absolutely.
And that's a lot of it.
Yeah.
So how do you find those groups on Facebook?
They're all over.
You just look it up?
Dentists.
Yeah, if you do a search on dentistry, good Lord.
I know that's such a stupid question.
Yeah. And you got to sit there, you join them, and some of them you have to answer questions.
Yeah,
you
have to answer the crazy questions,
Yeah, like,
what's a cuss tip? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. We're in.
They're trying to weed out the people that are in there just to sell things.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll have rules. Some of the groups will have rules. You can't do any kind of advertising, or you can't. There's no down talk or whatever. There's different rules that some of them have, but for the most part, it's pretty open to whatever, and people post their work and talk about different aspects of dentistry and different situations. And, it's nice because you've got a forum to go to, whereas if you are having some issues or problems, man, you can get an answer
quickly
within minutes.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
People are very quick to help.
Yeah.
It's great because you've got that resource to help you out. Like you were saying, Elvis, with the screw, and not knowing what kind of implant it was or what kind of screw, being able to help like that. So the social media has been amazing. I haven't really done much on the Instagram and all that yet. I'm really, as my son would say, I'm old school with Facebook. Facebook is the old person's social media now. It's the old people's social media.
It is actually.
Yeah.
I don't even know how Snapchat works. I don't know any of that stuff. I'm all Facebook.
Our kid does TikTok. I'm like, what the heck is
I know.
TikTok? I don't know what it is.
I don't either.
understand it. It's
I have
short
no idea.
videos. That's it.
Nope, I'm Facebook.
But what's amazing about some of those dental groups is they'll go on there and just say, hey, I'm looking for a lab. Anybody recommend a good lab for whatever?
Huh.
Oh,
So they expect other dentists to say, oh, I use this lab and this lab. And I'm on there saying, this lab. It's why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're very quick to say
they'll
who
check
they're
you out.
using.
They'll go to your
Yeah.
website. If they're interested, you never know.
Yeah.
And it's free. I do this while I'm like watching TV.
Absolutely.
You are brilliant.
I am
saying.
brilliant. Well, no.
Yeah, I mean, with a name like Elvis, how could you not?
Oh, yeah. So how many clients do you have?
I only have maybe
how many can you take
8
on?
8 or 9 right now.
That's a lot.
It's
I mean, for one
enough
person,
for me,
yeah,
for sure.
I would say that they're sending a fair amount of work your direction.
It could be dangerous if you just have 1 or 2 accounts that your lab is
support.
So your lab is depending on 2 or 3 clients. That's not a good thing.
No,
because a lot of times they'll end up knowing that, hey, I've got you where I need you.
Yeah.
This is where my price point needs to be. If you can't make that, then I'm going to have to jump ship, and you're going to have to find another dentist. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of the labs will say, okay, I'll meet you.
I'll drop it.
We'll meet in the middle maybe.
I couldn't imagine if your biggest account was like a DSO.
Oh,
they get some new executive that just changes labs like that.
I don't even try to get those accounts. I don't want to have anything to do with the big corporate dentistry.
One of our biggest practices was a private practice. Great guy, tons of work. He got bought out. Didn't hear about it. Didn't know about it. All of a sudden, he just stopped.
Yeah.
It takes you about a week to be like, well, what happened?
Where'd
Are you
he
on
go?
vacation? You call him. It's like, no, we got bought out.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the?
Yeah.
Boom, just like that.
There are a lot of them moving that direction, for sure.
Yeah, because they're following rules now. They have to meet a certain number with their lab bill, and they have to lower it to get to where.
And then I'm like, well, who
more
bought
production,
you out?
more
Can
production,
you give me a
more
contact? You reach out. You're like, hey, what do I need to do to keep this account? We've had them for 8 years. They like us, and they're like, well, we'll get back. You never hear from them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because it's all going to night dental. No, I'm just kidding.
It is, actually.
It's hard. It's hard competing against.
I don't even try.
And servicing them, too. We have quite a few DSOs at night dental. It's true. They want really cheap but really good, really fast, lots of communication, same sort of standards.
Yeah.
But they don't pay for it.
And then when you send the statement goes to another state, to some corporate office, and then you're having to wait 2-3 months to get paid.
Yeah,
so that's really not the clientele small labs want to go after.
No.
The big labs can handle that, but
they can have them.
But I just there's no way I couldn't survive on that. When the work is done, I want to get paid.
Yeah.
Stay the course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't change a thing.
DSOs still, no matter how much they talk about how much it's growing, it's still less than 10% of all dentistry.
Absolutely.
So there's plenty of work
Oh,
out
yeah.
So many.
Not
I
worried
think
about
Charlotte has like 600 or 700 dentists in like the metropolitan.
Wow. Yeah.
There's just so many dentists.
There's
out
a lot
there.
of labs in that Charlotte
Are
area.
you in
A lot
Drake's
of big
territory?
I am in Drake's
Okay.
territory. Yeah, I used to be in Drake's lab years ago. Good. There's great company, great lab. I have nothing but good things to say about the guys at Drake. They're very, very, very good.
And
company
that trifecta, you got Drake and Absolute,
Drake
Triad.
Yep.
I mean, that's,
they're there too.
They're
Wow.
all there. Yeah.
That's a big. I don't know why.
We know
but
all those
somehow
folks.
It's like a mecca of good big labs.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, good quality labs too.
There's our shirt. He wants us to interview him as well. Sorry,
I talked to
don't
him
mean
yesterday.
to
You weren't
interrupt.
here.
Aww. Yeah. It's been a little crazy. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for talking to us.
Absolutely.
I'm glad that I
Good
got
catch
to
up.
sit with you now this time.
Anytime.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it,
y'all for
Joshua.
doing what you do. It's a
Thanks.
big plus for our industry to have this resource to
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
for other people to listen and learn and
Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's great. I
Thanks.
appreciate it. Thank
Episode
y'all.
100 in 2 days.
Yes.
All right. Amazing.
Nice.
Awesome. Congratulations,
you later.
guys.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
All right. A huge thanks to Tommy Rodgers, Dr. Mike Clark, Bob, and Joshua. We super enjoyed sitting down and talking with everybody and learning the different perspectives that everybody has. We promise that as soon as we have the chance to record live again, and you and I both like traveling and we like recording live, we will be there because we love to talk to everybody face to face. You know, it was pretty cool talking to technicians from other countries. So if you are one of them and you would like to be on the podcast, please reach out to us and we would love to hear about how our industry is, where you're at, and where you live. And as we said, June is CDT and Dental Technician Appreciation Month. We've asked people to send us their audio files of them thanking that special someone or group, and we would play them on the podcast. Before we play this week's collection, we just want to take a moment and thank all of our listeners for listening. Elvis and I enjoy talking to the people we get to chat with, and we really love sharing them with others in our industry that have the same passion. So thank you to our listeners, to our sponsors, to our guests. You guys super motivate us every single week. We really love what we do on this podcast. So the first one is from Tony Prespatino. He forgot to say who he was because honestly, he needs no introduction. So enjoy this collection of our industry thanking our industry. Drum roll.
Hi, VFB and Elvis and Barbara. Thank you for this opportunity. I'd like to recognize Carbon as a company. During the pandemic, they certainly stepped up and helped us produce PPE.
Personal note, I wanted to send a shout out to 3 of the dental technicians that have influenced me the most. Of course, my father, Tom Bormas, the godfather of removable, Bruce Keeling, and the consummate gentleman, Mr. Bill Aremus. Thank you all.
Hi, this is Rosie from Preet. I wanted to send a thank you to Elvis and Barb from Voices from the Bench, LNT team, IDT team, JDT and NADL team for continuously updating the entire industry on all that is new and keeping us connected, and it is definitely appreciated. A lot of hard work goes into that, and we all know we kept receiving updates from Bennett Napier and his team as well on all the paperwork, rules and regulations, everything that NADL is doing. Everybody got the updates. It's been a lot of pleasure to see everything that's going on and the community coming together so perfectly, and so much appreciation to the team providing and putting together all of this information. Thank you all for all you do. We definitely appreciate you.
Dental technicians are a sturdy bunch. You weather storms, pandemics, and questionable prescriptions. You're superheroes that never get to jump into that phone booth, but let your capes peek out every now and then anyway. All of us at LMT want to thank you for your hard work, your skills, your tenacity, and most of all, your optimism. We celebrate you this month and the whole year. Keep up the great work.
We really appreciate everybody that sent us. Thank you. The last well-written one was from, of course, the production editor at LMT, Becky Tyre. Remember that we still have 4 more episodes this month to play more thanks. This is your chance. Send it to us at info@voicesfromthebench.com and thank somebody that's made a difference in your career.
That's it for us. We appreciate it. Have a good one.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye. Yes, I do.